currently serving as the Associate Director of Human Resources at Ecolab Global Services. Mr. Vinod Kumar Chandran.
Candidates who ask questions, who wants to know more about what the role is, what the company does, that's very important. So being curious is the other quality.
It's easy to get caught up in credentials, but hearing you spotlight those deeper, often overlooked qualities.
Referring to AI because that's what the boom is now, right? So you need to look AI as a tool and not a replacement.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to FaceTime with Leaders, a podcast series by Directors Institute, World Council of Directors. I'm your host, Sunny Pancholi, and today we are diving deep into the world of human capital with someone who has not just seen the HR landscape evolve, but has been one of its architects. Joining us today is Mr. Vinod Kumar Chandran, an industry expert with decades of hands-on leadership across global brands and currently serving as the Associate Director of Human Resources at Ecolab Global Services. Mr. Chandran, it's a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me here, Sunny. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward for a great conversation today.
In fact, we have been eager to have this one. Your journey through high-volume recruitments, strategic HR planning, analytics, and now leading at a global scale, it reads like a roadmap for aspiring HR leaders.
Right. It's been quite a journey, and it's very kind of you to say that, right? And I'm glad to share whatever I can from those experiences that I have.
Absolutely. And there is a lot to uncover. So from transforming hiring models to integrating data with people strategy, your approach to human capital management has always struck a balance between innovation and empathy, Mr. Chandran.
Yeah, I appreciate that. HR today is more than a process, right? It's more about impact, and I think we are in the right journey. We're just getting started.
Amazing, amazing. So every leader's got that story, the real one, the early sparks, the curveballs, the wins that did not make it to LinkedIn. So let's rewind a bit. How did this all begin for you, Mr. Chandran? Take us through that journey, your own unfiltered path to where you are today.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey. My journey began with more of fascination for people, understanding what drives them and how the organization can nurture potential, right? Um, and my journey into HR wasn't some grand planned career move. It is a series of moments that taught me more about the power of people. Just to begin with, I started my career in 2003 with Mphasis. I was a BSc graduate. Not very unsure of how my journey would shape up, but I was very sure that it's going to be the people who's going to be mattering. And I started my journey as a call center agent, and that's an important thing to call out, right? Because that was my first exposure to cross-functional culture, right? And that gave me an edge to experience a different culture. And soon I explored an opportunity within Mphasis into recruitment. And back then, recruitment was more of a hiring engine, right? So for me, it was very important to work with hiring managers who always try to skip giving interview feedbacks, where I insisted them to give a reason for a no, because even a no deserves respect, right? And those small aspects taught me what the real role of an HR is. How do you bridge humanity and business, right? Some curveballs, which I would say is with EagleView, right? When I was working with EagleView, there was a very short period of time where we were to hire about 100 plus engineers. This was into skill of geometric and photogrammetry, right? And I think everything was difficult because it was at the time of COVID, and so I had to turn down everything. And my experience with HR analytics course, which I did in 2019, that helped me, where I turned down everything into a data-driven aspect, building dashboards. My recruitment met approach was very standardized, and we were able to scale up quickly, right? Which was from 0 to 400 in about 1.5 years. So that's the kind of journey that I was part of. But again, that's about the hiring part. But the hardest thing came very recently, where we had to balance um, empathy and tough calls. At Ecolab, for one of the teams, we had to do a little bit of restructuring. But instead of sending cold emails, we decided that we do an in-person conversation. Um, and even those tough conversations that we had with some of the associates.
Mr. Chandran, let me tell you, there is something incredibly inspiring about hearing how it all unfolded in your own words. Great. Uh, Mr. Chandran, one thing that really stood out to me when I was going through your background was how intentionally you have built structured interview frameworks over the years. And it really made me think, in a world where resumes are getting flashier and job roles are evolving faster than ever, I imagine it's easy to overlook the human behind the paper. So, from your experience, having interviewed talent across industries and levels, what are three qualities you believe companies often miss, but absolutely should be paying attention to when choosing the right people?
It's a great question, Sunny. Um, According to me, firstly, I think it's adaptability. The ability to thrive and change is priceless. And if I put it in different words, right, it's adaptability over perfection, right? Companies love to hire ready-made candidates, but often we see that hires with flawless credentials struggle when they're put into different environments. The best performers are the ones who actually ask, how can I learn, right? And that takes me to the second one, which is curiosity, right? Candidates who ask questions, who wants to know more about what the role is, what the company does. That's very important. So being curious is the other quality. Lastly, I think empathy. Empathy is glued to teamwork, especially in hybrid settings, because the world has changed in the way the work is done. And at Ecolab, at leadership, this is a main quality that we look at, where we've seen some great teams doing great work where the leader is more empathetic.
Absolutely. And that's such a refreshing take, Mr. Chandran. It's easy to get caught up in credentials, but hearing you spotlight those deeper, often overlooked qualities, it really brings us back to the heart of good hiring, people over profiles. Great. So, Mr. Chandran, moving ahead, one thing that keeps coming up in conversations lately is this whole shift towards remote and hybrid work. It's changing not just how we work, but how we connect to each other. And you have led teams across functions and geographies. So, in this new landscape where water cooler chats and office energy are no longer givens, how do you see the future of culture building taking shape?
An important aspect in the culture building is it's no longer on a physical proximity, right? Because currently, I'm being part of a global capability centers where teams are cross-functional, where across geographies there is leaders who manage teams in India, in Asia Pacific, or in the North America, right? So it becomes even more important because you got to intentionally design it that way. And at Ecolab, we moved from an office-centric ritual to purpose-driven connections. Okay, namely to say micro moment of belonging, replace virtual happy hours, and make it more structural, right? And talk about the wins that you look at, how people are doing, right? Because that's very important when you're having your team meetings. Cultural signatures are important because um, your recognitions are not very physical in nature at this point in time, because you need to create a digital space where people are recognized, and there is a lot of tools that we'll be using, like it could be Slack channels, it could be Teams meeting, it could be storyboards that we have. So I think those are different avenues where it gives people for them to interact with a lot of people. And it is also important that you get mentored by different leaders across geographies.
Chandran, that's such a grounded and timely perspective, actually. It's clear that culture isn't just about office perks, it's about presence, trust, and shared intent, even when we are miles apart.
And that's absolutely right because in today's world, it's people are more emotionally connected, right? I think that's where it is very important to understand different cultures.
Absolutely, absolutely, Chandran. All right, so continuing our conversation, we are in this fascinating moment where technology, especially AI and automation, is moving faster than most of us can keep up with. And while it's been exciting, let's be honest, it's also a bit daunting, isn't it?
Yep, it is. But again, you need to look at and I think you're referring to AI because that's what the boom is now, right? So you need to look AI as a tool and not a replacement, right? And I could quote certain examples from a previous experience. Maybe at Dover, right? The automated resume screening. So we had an ATS which automated the screening because that reduce the effort of mostly some junk profiles coming in, right? And that took a lot of time from the recruiters. But what did not lose is the human interviews, right? Because that's the personal touch that will never go. So it's the repetitive work is what will get replaced, and that is where we have tools. The other aspect is upskilling. Upskilling is non-negotiable. We train our HR teams to interpret AI insights because that's very, very important in today's world where we're using tools and how do you encourage your HR teams to adapt to those advances that is coming in so that they're not left behind. They are intact and more time is being spent is being spent on the people aspect than the operational transactional activities, right? Yeah, that's how I see. And mainly if you have to teach someone or if you have to implement something, right, you need to teach to the why behind the tool, right? Well, so what we do in today's world is we run open houses for teams to demo their automation work, right? And it's sometimes it's great to hear certain teams coming and telling that, hey, this processes which was implemented has actually reduced what 15 hours or 10 hours of my work in my day-to-day work, right? And I'm able to concentrate more on the strategic part of it. That's where the important thing is. And also while we're building policies, right, or how we are framing the future for our talent. Uh, so we not only identify the emerging skill, which is more of it could be something like a prompt engineer, right? The other thing that we do is blend it with a timeless skill, and what a timeless skill is mostly your behavioral skills, right? And so that's how the parallel development happens, and I think that's how we are able to cruise through this journey of an AI phase.
Rightly said, Mr. Chandran. And you have really captured the fine line between embracing innovation and keeping HR human. It's something many are grappling with right now, and hearing it from you makes it feel a little more doable, of course.
Right, right.
All right, so moving ahead, Mr. Chandran, when we look at a career like yours, rich with depth, strategy, and impact, it's only natural to wonder what's the next chapter looks like. So, what I'd like to ask you is you have already made such a strong mark in the HR world, but I'm very curious as you look ahead. What are some of your aspirations? And part B of my question is do you see yourself stepping into more boardroom roles or shaping policy at an even broader level?
That's an interesting question, Sunny. Well, I'm passionate about shaping governance, joining board to align HR strategy, right, with an ethical leadership, and I think that's very very important. Mainly to influence policies that makes workplace inclusive and future ready. Um, and it's more about blending my grassroots HR experience with boardroom perspective, right? That is what the goal is. Wherein the other aspect is mentoring the next generation HR professionals is equally important, I think. And for all this, I think the Directors Institute has helped me gain the tools and how to amplify my vision.
Mr. Chandran, hearing you talk about the future with such clarity and intention, it really reminds me that leadership isn't just about where you have been, but where you are bold enough to go next.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right. So, with everything you have experienced in shaping HR strategy, one theme that powerfully runs through it all is governance. How we uphold ethics, accountability, and transparency at every level. So, in your view, how does strong corporate governance influence the everyday decisions HR leaders make? And how essential it is in shaping a culture that truly lasts?
It is very important because I would say governance is the backbone of trust, and it could be trust of the employees, it could be trust of the shareholders, it could be trust of the customers that they believe in a company, right? And just for an example, with my HR experience, when we built a tool for our merit process, right, where the entire merit process is not very subjective. It has got certain metrics which clearly calls out if you are a performer and if you are at this percentage in the market based on what salary you're making, what the budget is. It gives up a desired range for the hiring managers to select as to what they should award a performer, right? So it becomes very robust and a unbiased tool where things are not very subjective. And I think that's where the governance kicks in, right? Because if things are very subjective, then you need to have an audit committee. You need to have a lot of questions. It could be a time-bound process, but by implementing a tool, I think we were able to shape that up at Ecolab.
So, Chandran, it's so clear from the way you have explained it. Governance isn't about ticking boxes, it's about leading with intention and building systems people can believe in.
That's correct.
Great. All right. So, Mr. Chandran, you recently came on board with Directors Institute, and I would love to hear what that experience has been like for you so far. What drew you in, and how has the journey been from your perspective?
Importantly, what drew me was the focus on actionable governance, right? So how to translate principles into practice. I think that is what stood out, right? And the peer discussion on boardroom dynamics, that is what I was given an understanding of. Okay, that is very, very important, and it's very valuable. And it's also has sharpened my ability to ask right questions, right? Like how a HR metrics tie up to shareholder value. For anyone, a leadership and for anyone to be at a leadership crossroad, I think Directors Institute offers both a toolkit and a mindset to level up. So I think that is where it drew me. And for me, joining Directors Institute was a natural evolution because I believe HR must bridge boardrooms and break rooms.
Fantastic to hear that, Mr. Chandran. It's always great when learning environments actually deliver on growth, and hearing your perspective just adds more weight to what DI stands for.
Thank you so much.
So, Mr. Chandran, it's been such a pleasure having you on FaceTime with Leaders. Your insights on leadership, governance, and human capital have been incredibly, incredibly valuable. Not just for us here, but I'm sure for every listener tuning in today.
Thank you, Sai.
And let me tell you, conversations like this remind us that great leadership isn't just about strategy, it's about people, purpose, and staying grounded even while reaching high. And to our audiences, thank you for joining us on another episode of FaceTime with Leaders, brought to you by Directors Institute. Until next time, keep leading with intent and curiosity. Thank you so much and have a nice time.